Hey guys, Anthony from Go Industrial. So we get a lot of questions around how do I set up my Graco sprayer, how to actually spray, and how to clean up my Graco sprayer. So we've put together a 3-part series to answer those exact questions. This is part 2 of that series. If you missed part 1, you can check it out in the description below. We've got that link. Stay tuned. We're going to throw to Jacob on site, who's going to run you through that now.
So the nature of airless spraying is that we just have pressure in the line to atomize the paint. So there's no air at all. And that's the biggest difference between a Graco airless sprayer and other competitor sprayers on the market. They're a lot slower. They don't provide as good as the finish quality. You don't get that film build or the actual protection of the paint against the elements. So in terms of spraying technique, as I mentioned, 50% overlap on each stroke, depending on what direction we're going. At the moment, I'm spraying horizontally. You can change the tip guard to spray vertically up and down if you're doing walls or a ceiling, if that's easier for you. But for now, I'm going to be spraying horizontally. So what I'll do as well is you have to be fast. So again, like a Bunnings sprayer or a Wagner little sprayer, you're forever at the fence holding down the trigger because it's just air pushing the paint through. It's very slow, very inefficient. Airless is a lot faster, so you have to make sure that you're moving fairly quickly. If you go too slow, you have too much paint buildup and you get runs and drips. We don't want that. So you'll quickly find a balance when you're spraying, depending on what tip size you're using and what paint you're using, on how fast to move. Generally, the bigger the tip size, the faster you'll want to move again, but you'll know because there'll be a bit of a mist and it won't be a perfect gradient from left to right or up to down of when you're spraying. So for example, we're spraying here. That's a good speed there. If I move too quick, you can see that we're not getting great coverage. So spraying technique, firstly, we want to make sure that we're always spraying perpendicular to the surface. In that case, I always want to stay flat with the surface and move with it. We don't want to be flexing our wrist at the end of the spray fan, because if you picture a flat surface, if I turn my wrist, it's an uneven coat. So always want to make sure we're moving with the direction of the surface, staying perpendicular, locking that wrist in. We actually have a 40cm tip extension, which is super handy right now. I don't need to have a step ladder to just reach up to this gutter. I can stand back and spray it from here. And then we also have what we call a Graco CleanShot extension. In my opinion, this is absolutely necessary when using a tip extension in our range. Essentially, when I'm triggering on and off, the needle is actually cutting off the flow at the gun. So if you picture it, we've got this much 40cm worth of built up back pressure. When I trigger on again, sometimes the gun has a tendency to spit and that ruins the spray finish. So the CleanShot actually has a shut-off valve that actuates over 900 PSI, stops any spitting from occurring. An added benefit also has an 180-degree swivel. So right now, if I'm standing backwards, I can actually position my CleanShot to be in line with the surface that I'm spraying. It just makes it a lot easier. We want to ensure that we have a really nice mix between the tip size we're using and how fast we're moving. If we're putting out too much paint, moving too slowly, we'll get paint drips and we'll get paint runs. And that's really annoying because when you want a seamless sprayed finish, we can't afford drips and runs. So make sure that you dial your pressure in like we did before with a bit of cardboard and get used to the speed of spraying in general. If you work your pressure lower, you don't have to move as fast. If you're working at a higher pressure and you're putting out way too much paint, if you move slowly, you're gonna have those drips. So when we're using a Graco airless sprayer, we're actually getting 8 times the coverage of a brush. We're getting 5 times the coverage of a roller. So we only need to be spraying 2 coats here. This is already a pre-painted gutter and pergola. So if it hadn't been pre-painted, we would have ensured that we've done the correct preparation, sprayed an undercoat, and ensure that we're getting the right materials to either stain block or to make sure that there's no mold or anything that's penetrating through. So in this case, it's pretty straightforward. We're just spraying 2 coats of our tint exterior, and that's well and truly enough micron film build of paint to protect against the elements.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. If you missed part 1, it's in the description. Stay tuned for part 3, how to clean up your sprayer.